This is the Thriving Dentist Show with Gary Takis, where we help you develop your ideal dental practice, one that provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Dentist Show. I'm Gary Takis, your podcast co-host. We have a great episode for you today. It's titled Your Blueprint to Successfully Resign from PPO Plans. Well, if you're a regular listener to the Thriving Dentist Show, you know this is a topic that I am absolutely passionate about. Can't wait to share some thoughts with you today. Hey, before we get to the podcast episode, a couple quick announcements to make. Coming up about a month after we publish this episode is our next Thriving Dentist Masterclass. In fact, that ties very nicely into the topic of our podcast episode today. Our next masterclass is our signature masterclass. It's titled 6 Steps to Successfully Resign from PPO Plans. That's on November 1st, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll get 3 hours of CE. And during that course, I will walk through all the details to successfully resign from PPO plans. So if you're a doctor that's made a decision, you just want to know how to do it, that would be a great masterclass for you to attend. If you're kind of on the fence, maybe you're not sure that your practice is prepared for this, that masterclass will give you the information to determine that and how to prepare so that at some point you could do that in the future. And maybe you're just curious. Maybe you're just a doctor that's kind of curious about this and would like to know more. Regardless of what camp you're in, I think you'd enjoy that masterclass. 3 hours is done virtually. It's in a live stream format. I do it live, so you attend from the comfort and convenience of your home or office, but without any travel expenses or inconvenience. But it is done live, so you can ask me questions. To register for that, go to thrivingdentist.com/masterclass. Very affordable, less than $90 tuition. Some of the most affordable CE you'll get, but more importantly, some of the most practical CE that you'll ever receive. So come join us. All right, the next announcement I have is we have a returning guest, Dr. Avi Patel. He is a clear aligner advisor and expert in the topic of clear aligners, Invisalign and clear aligners. I am a big fan of adult ortho in a general practice. And the development of clear aligners has really been a game changer for many practices. And Dr. Patel is going to share a top clinical tip with you today about the process of finishing your aligner cases. I know you're going to like this tip. By the way, we have this on video as well. And if you'd like to actually watch it on video, just go to the show notes on thrivingdentist.com. Just hit podcast and scroll down and find this episode, and you'll find the video of Dr. Avi Patel in video format as well. Well, with no further ado, here's Dr. Avi Patel on the process of finishing an aligner case.
Hey, it's Dr. Avi, your clear aligner advisor. I got a tip for you guys today, and I wanted to talk about the process of when you're finishing a case and what you should do. So doctors ask me all the time, they ask, should they remove attachments before they scan for retainers, or should they wait until after to remove the attachment? So basically for a situation, your patient has completed treatment, and when they're done, they come in for the final evaluation appointment. You're going to either determine if you need additional trays or if they're done and you want to put them into retainers. So my protocol and what my team does and the doctors who I teach, what they do is they will just scan the patient with the attachments on, and then after the assessment is done, whether or not they're going to go into refinements or retainers, we then remove those buttons at the following appointment, right? And the reason why we do this is because if you take off the attachments and then you scan, sure, you might get a slightly more accurate next step, but in our experience, the aligner companies do a pretty good job of removing the attachments virtually and then giving you either your retainers or your set for refinement. Hope that helped. And if you want more tips, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at dr.avi. And I am always dropping tips through Reels. And yeah, I'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Thriving Dentist Coaching in Action segment. This is Naren, your co-host. First, I want to take a minute to thank Dr. Patel for that wonderful, short, but very effective clinical tip about finishing an aligner case. So thank you, Dr. Avi. We'll include your Instagram link so others can follow you. Also, we'll include the video. So anybody who wants to watch the video, you can just go to show notes, watch that video. The topic today is your blueprint to successfully resign from PPO plans. Your blueprint to successfully resign from PPO plans. Many of you know that Gary is world famous, or at least famous across the US, when it comes to this topic of resigning from PPO plans. He has helped more than 1,000 practices over the last decade plus. I know he started resigning from PPO plans for his own practice. I'll let Gary tell the story. And then since he had mastered the process, he has made it into a science. It's no longer just, oh, let's try a few ideas and see what works, but rather it's a very organized, systematic process of resigning from PPO plans. So Gary, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I know our RIDA Summit is also coming up. I know we might talk about it later, but so this is a perfect timing to really get into this topic, because there's a huge group of people who are sick and tired of the PPO plans and all these massive insurance companies, and are on this journey of dropping PPO plans one by one.
Yeah, Naren, there is a groundswell movement of dentists all over the country that have simply had it with the PPO plans. And they've had it with all the massive burden, administrative burden they place on practices, with their policies that have nothing to do with quality of care, with indifference in terms of the way they treat dentists. And perhaps the biggest gripe is the sheer amount of money that PPO providing dentists need to hand over to the PPO plan by virtue of their insurance adjustments, The average adjustment, an insurance adjustment, is the difference between your usual fee and your contracted fee. Today, because we have data from practices in all 50 states, today the average adjustment is right around 45%. So that means if your usual fee for a service was $1,000, I'm just making up a round number, that means that if the patient did not have insurance, they're going to pay you $1,000 for that service. However, if they're a PPO patient, by virtue of your contract as a PPO provider, you write off 45% of that fee. That means you get $550 for that service from a PPO patient, rather than the $1,000 you would get if they didn't have dental insurance. And you write off, adjust is the more complicated term. You adjust 45% of your fee off. And the one of the challenges with many dentists, Naren, is they don't actually know what they're writing off. And let me take a minute and explain that. There are two ways to enter your fees into your practice management software fee schedules. And this goes for any of the practice management software. Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental are the main three. They're the largest three in the country. There's others, but those are the largest. There's two ways you can enter your fees. One way is to enter your usual and customary fee. Put that fee schedule in your fee guides. And then when your team member gets an EOB, an explanation of benefits, your team member can load that into your software, and then the software will do the heavy lifting to determine what your net production was after the adjustment. And you can now figure out what you collect from the patient based on your net production. Only 10% of dentists in the country enter their usual and customary fee schedule, Naren. The advantage to entering your usual and customary fee schedule is you can run a report of insurance adjustments and find out exactly how much you're adjusting off. But the other way, that's much more common, 90% of dentists do it the other way. And both of these are accepted accounting norms as to how to do it. The other way that you can do it is you can enter your contracted fees. All three major software programs, practice management software, Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental, encourage you to enter your contracted fees. Now, why is that? Because it makes it much easier to compute your collections. And as a result of making it easier, 90% of dentists do it that way. However, the downside of doing it that way, Naren, is that you never know what you're writing off. So now dentists are complaining about radically high, oh, my overhead's going through the roof. And they'll spend, 2 hours online trying to save, $1 on a box of gloves, because their overhead is too high. And in fact, they're bleeding, they're bleeding from an artery based on their adjustments. The $1 they're going to save on the box of gloves isn't going to amount to anything while they're bleeding out over here based on the amount of adjustments that they're handing over to the fat cats at the insurance company.
Yeah, we have seen, hundreds of thousands of dollars in write-offs, right? A lot of times.
Well, I want to use an
$500,000.
example.
Mhm.
So Naren and I created an Excel spreadsheet that we use with our clients to help because 90% of dentists don't know what they're writing off. Hey, doc, do you know what you're writing off? No, I know it's pretty big, but I don't know what it is. We created an Excel spreadsheet with 3 pieces of information. It'll be accurate to plus or minus 2% to find out what you're writing off. And let me use an actual case study so that you can understand this. And you can maybe factor in, relate this to your numbers. This is a new coaching client of mine. And one of the first questions I asked was, once I knew he was a PPO practice, he's participating with about 15, 16 plans. I said, do you know how much you're writing off? And he said, no, I don't know. I enter my contracted fees. I said, would you like to know? He said, yes, I would. So here was the information. This is a practice, solo doctor, 2 hygienists. So 8 days of hygiene, 4-day-a-week practice. I won't use the name out of confidentiality, but I'll share the data with you. This was an office that in 2022, they collected right at $1 million, right at $1 million. Nice, solid $1 million practice in collections. We entered the information, and the information that we needed was the amount collected, what percent of his patients were PPO patients, and in this practice, it was 80%, and what his average discount was. And his average discount was 42%. Easy arithmetic to figure that out by looking at some fee schedules. So 80% PPO, 42, a little bit lower than the 45 that we see, but it was 42%, still a big discount. And we learned the Excel spreadsheet does the heavy lifting. We learned that this practice had to produce $1,537,000 worth of dentistry in order to collect $1 million. Now, if you're listening to this sort of just out of one ear, you might think, oh my gosh, that office has a collections problem. They produced $1,537,000, they only collected $1 million? They have a collections problem. No. They don't have a collections problem. They have an adjustment problem. This office was forced by virtue of the PPO contracts to adjust, to write off $537,000 a year. $537,000 a year. Now, from this moment forward, as a listener to the Thriving Dentist Show, I want you to think of your insurance adjustments as a marketing expense. Why? Because you're paying the insurance company to provide you patients. You're paying Delta to provide you patients. Now, as soon as you start thinking that, I believe the way you think about things is going to change. I don't know anybody that spends $537,000 a year on marketing, actual, spending it to a marketing company. But in fact, this office was spending, and I'm using spending in air quotes, $537,000 a year on marketing. Now, here it gets even more insidious in the form of those insurance adjustments. It even gets more insidious because the overhead, Naren, what's the overhead based on? Is the practice overhead based on the $1 million they collected or the $1,537,000 they had to produce?
It's based on the $1,537,000 they have to produce, because that's how much dentistry they were doing, right? So
that's how much consumable supplies. That's how much team member, wages to produce that. So you're right. It's based on the $1,537,000, not on the $1 million they collected. Adds insult to injury. So, doctors, if you don't know what you're writing off, it's like you're driving an exotic sports car blindfold. The exotic sports car is your practice, but you're driving it blindfolded. As a car guy, that makes me have goosebumps, Naren, to think that someone would drive a high-performance sports car blindfolded. That makes me very nervous. But that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. So, start, get your arms around, maybe your accountant can help you figure that out. If you work with an ADCPA accountant, they absolutely can help you figure that out. But ask your accountant, hey, can you help me figure out what I'm actually producing? And once you discover the difference between your production and collection, and that the majority of it being by insurance write-off, it might motivate you to start to kick these insurance companies goodbye. Let me be clear. The insurance company doesn't care one little bit about you, doctor. There's 4 entities involved in the insurance game today. There's a dental insurance company that writes the policy. There's the dentist that provides the care, the patient that receives the care, and the employer that bought the policy. In those 4 entities, there's only one winner, and that's the dental insurance company. Everybody else loses. You lose, doc, because of the 45% you're forced to write off based on your contract. The patient loses because of all the silly games the insurance companies play. Heaven forbid that your good patient would show up 5 months and 29 days after their last hygiene appointment, because that one's going to be stamped denied because they didn't have a 6-month wait between hygiene appointments. And then the employer loses because they're quite literally being gouged for their premiums. They're being massively, they overpay premiums because the insurance company has them over a barrel. It's about time that lopsided, one-sided game goes away. It's a win-lose game and you're losing. Now, the most common question I get, whether it's in a webinar format or in a live course, is, I'm practicing in a highly competitive area. Can I even consider successfully resigning from PPO plans? Well, our experience is absolutely. We've helped dentists in all 50 states do that in every locational environment: urban area, suburban area, large town, medium-sized town, small town, remote practice, practice in a company town like Seattle. Seattle has many employers, but there's 4 big ones: Microsoft, software and computers, Boeing Aircraft, another big employer. A third one is Amazon, who has their world headquarters and a massive fulfillment center in Seattle. And then Starbucks is headquartered in Seattle as well. Now, not everybody that lives in Seattle works for one of those 4 companies, but many of them do. And guess what, Naren? They all provide PPO plans to their employees.
Yes.
But we've had success with dentists in every area of Seattle, even with all that influence of the PPO plans, successfully resigned from PPO plans. One of the keys to doing this is to do it in a friendly way for your patient. And here's the great news. Even once you resign, your patient can still choose you as their dental office. They can use whatever benefits they have right in your practice. We're going to still file their claims for you like we always have. And we're going to be on their side to help them get every dollar of benefit that they have. And once patients realize that they can still choose you, then they'll often make the decision to stay with you. So we've developed a 6-step plan to successfully resign from PPO plans. And it's a blueprint to follow. Let me walk through those 6 steps very quickly for you. Step number 1 is know your data. That means that we need to know how many plans you're contracted with, including the umbrella plans, because very often there's umbrella plans that you're not even aware of that you're contracted with, but it was buried in the fine print of the PPO contracts. We need to know every plan you're contracted with. Secondly, we need to know how many active patients you have on each plan. And we determine that based on any patient from that plan that's had an appointment in your practice in the last 18 months. You can put that filter in your computer system to get you that report. And thirdly, we need to know how much notice time is required to resign from the plan. Every plan has a notice requirement. It's 30, 60, or 90 days, most commonly 60 or 90 today. That's going to be buried somewhere in your PPO contract. Don't waste any of your time trying to find it. Just have your insurance coordinator call the insurance company and say, hey, we're thinking of resigning. How much notice are we required to give? And the insurance company is required to tell you that. That's step 1. Step 2, master digital marketing. You need to replace Delta as I'm using Delta because they're a 5,000-pound gorilla. You need to replace Delta as the source of new patients with, wait for it, Google as the source of new patients. Where would you rather get your patients from, Delta or Google? I know that one. It's Google.
Google, because it costs you nothing almost. I mean, it's like literally cents on the dollar versus PPO plans. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, even like you said, $500,000.
That doctor that I used in the example, Naren, that's writing off $537,000 a year, he used to spend $537,000 a year on marketing. Today he spends $15,000 a year. What would you rather spend? And he spends $15,000 a year by mastering digital marketing. And the way he's doing that is he's an Equa client. He's one of your clients now, where you help him master digital marketing. If you'd like to learn more about how Equa can help you with that, go to www.equa.com/MSM, Marketing Strategy Meeting. And think about it, Doctor, and this is not a trick question. What would you rather spend, $537 a year to attract new patients, or $15,000 a year? Take as long as you like. Step 3, you want to have a very effective in-office membership plan. That's a granular detail, but it's very important. An in-office membership plan allows you to attract people in your community who don't have dental insurance. By the way, that universe of people is growing massively. Step 4 is we want to fully train all of your team members in what their role is in communicating with your patients about successfully resigning from PPO plans. So we spend a lot of time training your team members so they know how to support the office in this journey to successfully resign from PPO plans. Step 5 is we want to elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. The more relationship-driven you are, the more likely you are to keep your existing patients when you go out of network. Our goal is to lose as few existing patients as possible. Now, I wish there was a way that I could tell you that there's a way to do this and not lose any patients. I'm not going to tell you that because I've never seen it happen. You're going to lose patients. But one of the metrics that we use is we track exactly how many patients we lose. And the goal is to keep as many of those as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is to elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice so they never want to go anywhere else. And step 6 is kind of an ongoing step that you'll continually revisit. But that's the idea of adding selected high-value services to the services that you offer to your patients. Now, I can't give you a generic blueprint to follow there because dentists like different flavors of dentistry. There's all different kinds of flavors of dentistry. But I'd like you to consider adding what I call high-value services. What are some examples of high-value services? Well, we could go back to the clinical comment that Dr. Avi Patel made in the opening of our podcast, and you could incorporate aligners, and you could incorporate adult orthodontics. Adult orthodontics would be an example of a great high-value service. Maybe you place and restore implants, another great high-value service, Dan, if you're interested. All of this is qualified by where your interests are. You have to pick the things you're interested in. If you're not interested in placing implants, then find a specialist that can place them and you can restore them. But if you are interested, then consider advancing your skills to where you can competently place implants in your practice. Another example would be cosmetic dentistry. Another example might be incorporating oral conscious sedation in your practice to make every visit comfortable for patients that have a little anxiety. Another example might be doing complex full mouth restorative dentistry. Another example might be providing treating patients with obstructive sleep apnea with appliance therapy. Maybe you enjoy doing the ankyloglossia procedure, which is the lip and tongue tie release procedure on infants so that infants can successfully nurse. Maybe that's something you'd like to have. Maybe you enjoy dealing with patients that have TMD, TMJ issues. There's all kinds of different flavors of dentistry. And pick the ones you like and take a massive amount of CE in it and incorporate that into your practice. Now, the patient's still going to ask, hey, is that dental implant covered by my insurance? But when your financial coordinator says, well, George, unfortunately, no, implants are much more advanced and your dental insurance only covers the most basic things. The patient is going to say, well, it didn't hurt to ask. And very often they still want to have that treatment done because people will pay for what they want before they'll pay for what they need. Well, there's those 6 steps. Let me walk through them again really quickly for you. Step 1, know your data. Step 2, master digital marketing to replace any patients you might lose and also replace the historic flow of patients that have come from the PPO plans. Step 3, create an effective in-office membership plan. Step 4, fully train your team so they know what to say and how to say it to your patients. Step 5, elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. And step 6, consider adding high-value services that you get excited about learning more about and providing in your practice. There's your blueprint. So if you want to know more about that, I would encourage you to come to our next masterclass. Our next masterclass, as I mentioned in the opening, is coming up on November 1st. It's 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. Go ahead and do the time translation based on where you're located in the country. You get 3 hours of CE, and I'll go through copious detail about each one of those plans, each one of those steps to successfully resign from PPO plans. And again, to register for that, go to thrivingdentist.com/masterclass. Naren, we've got some questions coming up that will add texture to this conversation. Let's hit pause here on the coaching and action segment and get to the Thriving Dentist Q&A.
Welcome back to the Thriving Dentist Q&A segment. Before I jump into the Q&A segment, Gary had talked to me about sharing some resources. The first resource we would like to share is the Reducing Insurance Blueprint. So this is a PDF, worth its weight in gold, where Gary literally explains in detail these 6 steps. The other resource he shared with me is the 6 separate episodes he did, which was done as part of the Less Insurance Dependence podcast. We'll also include a link to those 6 episodes. So if you go to the show notes.
Those episodes are about, each one episode covers one of the 6 steps.
Exactly. So you can literally go and, let's say you want to dive into membership plans. Hey, there's a dedicated episode just on that, all the nuances, all the details to do with the membership plan. So similarly, all 6 steps, Gary goes into detail. So awesome resource, and looking forward to you benefiting from this. Gary, let me ask you 4 questions we have from our audience.
Those resources, Darren, will be shared in the show notes. Explain to our audience where they can get access to that.
Absolutely. So you can go to the thrivingdentist.com website, find this particular episode.
So hit podcast,
and you will see this episode. Of course, the title of this episode is Your Blueprint to Successfully Resign from PPO Plans. And as soon as you find this episode and you click on that link, you will see all these resources, the podcast, the PDF, all of these things. Take advantage of them. It's no cost. Gary and the team has put tons of work into it, so you will definitely benefit from them.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the questions. I have 4 questions. Question number 1, which of the 6 steps do you feel is most important?
Naren, that's a tough one for me. I like to think that they're all most important. As the parent of 4 adult kids, you're asking me to choose a favorite here among my 6 steps, and they're all my favorites. Well, but I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer it because someone asked, and I'm going to give you an answer. I think all of them are important. To me, step number 5 is the most important, elevating the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. That's most important. Followed very, very, very closely right behind it by step number 2, mastering digital marketing. So let me talk about why that order. The more relationship-driven you are, and what does it mean to be relationship-driven? It means we know our patients' names, their spouse's name, their kid's name, their dog's name, their hobbies, their interests. Maybe we know that Sylvia, one of our patients, is taking care of an elderly mother right now. Those are the things. Maybe we know the important dates in our patient's life. Maybe we know that Maria, our patient that's coming today, is going to celebrate her 25th wedding anniversary next week. And we're going to make a point about celebrating that with her. That's what it means to be relationship driven. The more relationship driven you are, the less likely people are to leave your practice. Dentistry is a very personal healthcare service. And many people want to go to a dental office where they're being taken care of by people who they know, like a dentists, if you're plural, if you have more than one, and team members who they know, like, and trust. Now, Naren, I'm going to point out that not everybody thinks that way. There are people in the world that think dentistry is a commodity. Crown's a crown's a crown. Dental office is a dental office is a dental office. And if that's the case, they're probably not the best patient for your practice if they think about dentistry as a commodity. But the majority of people think of dentistry as a very personal service. And they want to go to an office where they're surrounded by people who they know, like, and trust. The more you strengthen that, the less likely people are to leave. They don't want to leave that. They don't want to risk going somewhere else where they're not treated that way. They value the trust they have in you. And the more you can elevate that. And by the way, I don't think there's even a possibility to reach an endpoint on that. In other words, how good can you get? How good can you possibly get at that? And that's what makes dentistry so rewarding, is you're taking care of people you enjoy, surrounded by a team you love. And it's all about being relationship driven. Of course, number two, right behind it, is you've got to have a way to replace the insurance company as a source of new patients. And by far, the best way to do that is to replace them with Google and through digital marketing. That's the order that I would put those in. Step 5, first, elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice, followed very closely by step 2, which is master digital marketing. Now, the other 4 are very important as well, but that's where I would start with the top 2.
Thank you, Gary. Let me ask you question number 2. I'm on your email list and I saw that you have an upcoming RIDA virtual summit. Tell me more.
So RIDA, R-I-D-A, is both a play on words. We want to help you get RIDA insurance. If my grandmother were alive, she would be very upset at the grammar I just used, Naren. But I do like the way it sounds. We want to help you get rid of insurance, but it's also an acronym, RIDA. So my answer to my grandmother would be, grandmother, it's also an acronym. It stands for Reducing Insurance Dependence Academy. And she would smile at me and say, okay, I'll let it slip this time. But Naren and I created RIDA a number of years ago as a resource to help dentists successfully resign from PPO plans. So if you've never been to the website, go to rid.academy, rid.academy, and you'll see all kinds of resources to help you navigate the journey to successfully resign from PPO plans. 3 years ago, we decided to do a virtual summit. We did our first virtual summit. We usually do that in the fall, usually in late October. We did our second one last year. We're going to do our third one this year. It is coming up shortly. Naren, check me on the date, but I believe it's October 27th. Yeah, yes. Friday, from noon to 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. You'll get 5 hours of CE credit. If you stay to the end, you get 5 hours of CE credit. We have over 20 speakers. The list is growing. We have over 20 speakers, where each speaker will have a component, a piece related to successfully resigning from PPO plans. So they'll be speaking from years of experience, years of helping other clients do just this. Come to the summit. It's free. Naren and I are gifting your tuition. If you'd like to register for that, go to rid.academy. And you'll see right on the homepage, you'll see registration for the summit. You do need to register. So register for the summit and come join us. 5 hours of CE, with tons of detailed information about successfully resigning from PPO. Join the grassroots movement of dentists that have had enough. Quit handing the fat cats at the insurance company hundreds of thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money every year. It's time to change that.
Absolutely. I mean, we had record number of people attend, like literally double last year. And we expect that number to grow even more this year. So
our pre-registration number is already very high, and we expect to have similar growth this year. Join the legions of dentists that are taking control of their practice. And imagine, Naren, that office that was writing off $537,000 a year.
Yes.
That money is going to go directly to that doctor's bottom line, and massive improvement in his net income as a result of that. And he's going to he's in one fell swoop. We're in the process now of successfully resigning from plans. And in one fell swoop, that doctor is going to massively improve his practice, not only from the financial standpoint, but also many other aspects as well. You know, when the patient that came in 5 months and 29 days after their last hygiene appointment, somehow we missed that at the office, and he or she comes in 5 months and 29 days, and they discover that claim was denied. Who are they mad at, Naren?
The doctor, right? Or the team?
They're mad at the financial coordinator.
Yeah.
You know, why didn't you pay attention to this? Why didn't you make my appointment the next day?
Yeah.
They should be mad at their benefits supervisor at work, or better yet, they should be mad at the insurance company for having that silly clause.
Yes.
That silly exclusion. But they aren't mad at them. They're mad at you. Right. And so the quality of life goes up in your practice when we don't have to deal with those things anymore. And you're attracting people that choose you for reasons other than you're on their insurance. I know the one phrase that causes everybody in dentistry, I don't care whether you're a dentist, whether you're an administrative team member, an assistant, a hygienist, the one phrase that causes the hair to stand up on the back of your neck is when doctor presents dentistry to the patient, that the dentistry is needed or wanted on the part of the patient. And then the patient asks, does my insurance cover it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes the hair stand up on the back of our necks, because they're saying, in essence, many of them are saying, I only want to have it done if my insurance pays for it.
If it's
I
free.
don't really value what you can do for me. I only
Right.
want it done if it's free. Change that. It's time to change that.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Yeah, so the link again is rid.academy. Just go there, sign up. We'll put it also in the show notes, rid.academy. Gary, I have question number 3 for you. Many of my colleagues are using Google pay-per-click ads, and they're paying a significant amount of money for these ads. Is there a better way to do digital marketing that is more cost effective?
Well, I'm going to politely suggest that Google ads are the lazy dentist's way to market. You just throw money at them.
Right.
But last time I checked, most dental practices don't have extra money to throw at Google. They don't.
Yes.
So the better approach, the smart dentist way of marketing is mastering organic SEO. Now, let me share some data. I'm going to get a little nerdy with you, but I think you're going to enjoy this. Only for 95% of all websites, on the World Wide Web, 95% get zero organic traffic from Google. None. Only 5%. Let's now bring this to our audience, dentists. 95% of dental websites get zero organic traffic from Google. Organic simply means that you don't pay Google for it. You've earned it. You've earned it in their ranking algorithm. You've earned it. You don't pay for it. You've earned it. So that's one piece of data. You want to be in the 5% that doesn't pay Google. By the way, Google's whole, it's a very transparent business model. Their business model is to get companies to pay Google for ads. How's Google doing at that, Naren? I believe last year in 2022, they generated $234 billion with a B dollars of revenue from ads. Is that correct?
Yes, 224 billion.
Okay, what's 10 billion among friends?
I mean, if Google were a country, Gary, it would be like, richer than 150 countries in the world. Literally,
Right.
they make more money per year than countries with 100 million people make in that same year.
And their whole business model is trained towards lazy business owners that say, well, I don't want to worry about how to master digital. I'm just going to throw money at them. And I guess if you're a massive company, a multinational company that has a massive marketing budget, maybe it's easier to do that.
Right.
But that doesn't apply to any dentist I know. So you want to be in the 5% that gets all the organic traffic. And the way to do that is you master organic, SEO, organic search engine optimization. There's a whole series of things that need to be done. By the way, listen to Naren, you mentioned that you were going to provide as a resource in the notes, the 6 different episodes of the Less Insurance Dependence podcast.
Right.
Listen to the second one about mastering digital marketing, and that'll go through all kinds of details about how to do that. If you'd like, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to learn more about that, do what we did. Almost 7 years ago at Life Smiles, we started working with Equa as a marketing agency. And I have been beyond thrilled at the results. I've been recommending them to our clients for over 6 years because we need to have a way to replace patients you're going to lose. And also replace the flow that has historically come from being listed on the dental PPO plan's website. Do what we did. To learn more, just go to equa.com/MSM, schedule a marketing strategy meeting, and learn how Equa can help you master you can check that one right off your list. Learn how Equa can help you with step number 2.
Absolutely.
The one more piece of data I want to share, and I really want you to get your arms around this. If a potential patient clicks a paid ad, they will spend, and we have data on this from Google, wait for it, they're going to spend 15 seconds on your website. That was 15 seconds. That's it. That's all you're going to get. However, if they find you organically, they're going to spend 90 seconds on your website. Again, this is data from Google, not us. Would you rather have a potential patient spend 90 seconds on your website or 15? Take as long as you like. I'm going with 90, Naren.
Yeah.
The likelihood of them saying, "Oh wow, these people look great. Wow, look at all the different things they put. Look at the office. It looks great." How much of that can they do in 15 seconds? Very little.
Exactly.
But in 90 seconds, you're much more likely to get a conversion. Conversion means they're going to pick up the phone and call you and make an appointment. So there's another data point on why you should be doing this organically instead of pay-per-click.
Absolutely. In that marketing strategy meeting, we literally do a study of where you stand when it comes to SEO and give you a blueprint that you can now take and apply. So hopefully that is going to be worth a lot. I know every person who has done that says they learned so much about what they need to do to turn things around.
And Echo can get you on page one. When anybody in your community is looking for a dentist, they'll get you on page one, and they'll walk. Lila's the person you'll be scheduling that marketing strategy meeting. She'll walk with you all the details that have to be accomplished to get that to happen. And the cool part is you can just hand off to Echo and they can do it. That's a very cool result. It's like done for you digital marketing.
Thank you, Gary. Absolutely. Let me go to question number 4. I feel like my office is pretty good at being relationship driven. How can we get better?
Great question. All right. So one suggestion I'm going to make is every one of our listeners should have some kind of a digital note card in your practice management software where you put personal information about your patients, spouse names, kids names, dog names, hobbies, interests, college they went to. And doctor, you should enter information as you learn it in that digital note card, but your team members should also add information in there. And doctor, the one thing that will massively improve this in your practice is imagine that you have those digital note cards and imagine that you come in 10 minutes before your morning huddle. Now, I know I lost some of you right there, but stick with me on this. Imagine you come in 10 minutes before your morning huddle and you pull up that digital note card on every patient you're going to see today, whether it be a hygiene exam or a restorative patient, and you do your homework on who you're treating today. And if it was me and you saw that note card, and let's say I'm a hygiene patient, maybe you haven't seen me for 6 months. And now you're going to come into the hygiene exam and you're, Gary, it's good to see you. How's your wife, Therese? How's her yoga studio going? You know, I've taken some classes from her, but I need to get back in her yoga studio. Every time I take yoga, I feel much more relaxed, and I know I'm helping stretching and helping me avoid injuries. I need to get back into a yoga studio. And I have to ask you about your grandson, Kanan. How's Kanan doing? Now, how am I going to feel as a patient when doctor has that degree of interaction with me? Instead of, just talking about, the tooth on the upper left. How's the patient going to feel? And you don't have to know all your patients at all times. The larger your practice gets, it gets harder to do. But you do need to know the patients you're seeing today. And on that's one thing that you can do. Another thing that you can do, and this is a fun analog project. As digital and nerdy as I am, sometimes analog works. Here's an analog thing I want you to do. Set a goal of sending out 4 or 5 handwritten thank you cards every day to the patients that are on your schedule today. Who might you send those thank you cards to? Maybe a patient that just completed significant treatment. Now, team members can write the card and you just scribble your signature on it. So your role is pretty easy. Scribble, that's what you do. Maybe it's a patient that drives a long way. Maybe they used to live near your practice and now they move 30 minutes away, but they keep coming to you. They're driving past 500 offices to come to your office. Hey, George, we know you drive a long way to come see us. Your loyalty means the world to us. Thank you for being such an important part of our patient family. We appreciate you. Now, imagine, what about a patient that just makes you happy when you see her in the schedule? Olivia, when I see you on my schedule, it makes me smile. You are such a ray of sunshine. I wish all of our patients were as pleasant as you. Thanks for being part of our patient family. So set a goal of sending 4 or 5 of those out. And, today, Naren, nobody does this. And what does this make this strategy more effective? Because nobody does it. It stands out.
Exactly.
It's old school, but it works. That there's a couple things you can start doing immediately neither of these things will cost much. You have to buy a few note cards, but it's not going to cost you very much. But really what I think it comes down to is modeling being relationship driven to your team members. And the best way to model that, best way to get your team members to be relationship driven is to model it to them. So a question that I'll close on today is, how well do you know your team members? Do you know their spouse's name? Do you know their kids' names? Do you know their dog names? Do you know their hobbies and interests? Do you know what their kids' ages are? Do you know what their kids are going through right now? What about their extended family? Is one of your team members taking care of an elderly parent right now? How much do you know about them? So one of the ways you can do this is you can model it through your behavior of being extremely relationship driven with your team. Spend some time with them. Spend one-on-one time. Consider the idea. Here's something you could do. In the next month, schedule a 15-minute one-on-one meeting. It'd be nice if you could, walk down the street to a Starbucks and enjoy a beverage of your choice at Starbucks and just check in with them. How well do you know your team members? Well, on that note, Naren, we've provided some suggestions on enhancing the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. As we come to the finish line today, lots of resources here today. Be sure to go to the show notes. You'll find all those resources. I want to thank you, Naren, for co-hosting this webinar or podcast. I also want to thank you and your team at Equa for all the amazing things you do to help dentists quit lining the pockets of insurance companies. Also want to thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't done so already, I do have a favor to ask. Go to iTunes, find Thriving Dentist Show, and write us a review. A review on iTunes helps more dentists find us in the same way that a positive Google review helps more patients find you. On that note, let me thank you for the privilege of your time today and tell you that Naren and I look forward to connecting with you on the next Thriving Dentist Show.